Moscow was startled in the middle of the night by an unfamiliar sound. Reports indicate that a swarm of drones, invisible until it was too late, flew over Russia, followed by explosions in different areas. The event marked the largest drone attack recorded in modern history. 337 drones were launched against various regions of Russia, with 91 of them flying over Moscow, a city located 850 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. Infrastructure was affected, including buildings, railways, and industrial facilities. The Ukrainians demonstrated the capability of their new drone fleet, expanding the reach of their strategic operations. One of the highlights of the attack was the Un-126 Lyuti, known as Fierce. The question now is, how will this influence the next steps of the conflict? Peace negotiations remain uncertain, and the outcomes of this attack could have significant strategic impacts. If you want to understand the consequences of this event and how it could change the course of the conflict, watch this video until the end. What you are about to see contains real war footage from the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. It is presented strictly for documentary purposes. We do not encourage violence. Recommended for 18+. The largest military drone operation. Impacts on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Ukraine carried out a drone operation over Moscow, considered one of the most significant in the conflict. The operation took place in several Russian cities, including Moscow, Ramenskoye, Vidnoye, Zhukovsky, and Domodedovo. Alerts about aerial movements were recorded in other locations. The event preceded a new round of diplomatic negotiations between representatives of the US and Ukraine and Saudi Arabia. According to released information, this drone operation was one of the most extensive over the Russian capital and its surroundings since the beginning of the conflict. Security camera footage and reports from residents showed drone activity over the city. The distance from Moscow to the Ukrainian border, approximately 850 kilometers, raises questions about the region's airspace security. Moscow's mayor, Sergei Sobyanin, stated that air defense systems were activated and intercepted drones in the region. Governor Andrei Vorobyev reported impacts in some areas. The Russian Ministry of Defense reported that 337 drones were detected over various regions of the country, with 91 targeting the Moscow region. The event resulted in temporary disruptions to air and rail transport. In addition to aerial movements in the capital, reports indicate that more than 100 drones were directed toward the Kursk region, located near the border. This area has been a focal point of intense strategic activity, with ongoing operations and efforts to reposition forces following territorial shifts to Russia. Air defense systems reported the interception and neutralization of 337 drones last night. Official reports indicate that, as a security measure, the Russian aviation regulatory body activated the Kovyor plan, temporarily restricting operations at the capital's airports and 2 other regions. Buildings and vehicles located near the facilities of Miratorg, one of Russia's leading meat producers, suffered damage due to the operation. Recorded effects. Reports indicate that the railway infrastructure at Domodedovo station suffered minor impacts, leading to the temporary suspension of rail traffic. Official information shows that 36 settlements in the Belgorod region experienced power outages, with reports of impacts on homes and vehicles. Emergency teams responded to a fire reported in the Peremyshcholsky district in the Kaluga region, while structural damage to windows in a residential building was reported in the Zhukovsky district. According to the State Emergency Service, more than 100 professionals were mobilized to respond to the recorded incidents, including firefighting efforts. Reports indicate that these events have sparked discussions about the effectiveness of the region's air security systems. Residents mentioned hearing aerial movements during the early morning hours, raising questions about the responsive monitoring systems. Buildings and strategic infrastructure in the region recorded impacts from debris resulting from the interception of drones in areas approximately 50 kilometers from the Kremlin. The analysis of the effectiveness of air security measures in the region is still ongoing. Strategic Dynamics and Conflict Repercussions reports suggest an increase in aerial activity, focusing on strategic infrastructure. The event occurred before new rounds of diplomatic negotiations, highlighting the complexity of the current scenario and the pursuit of strategic agreements. The role of drone technology in the conflict. The use of drones in the conflict has grown, with both sides investing in new technologies to expand their operational capabilities. Experts indicate that long-range drone models, such as the Un-126 Lyuti, have been employed in strategic operations due to their autonomy and precision. Long-range drone characteristics. Operational autonomy, over 1,000 kilometers. Average speed, 250 to 300 kilometers per h payload capacity, up to 75 kilograms of equipment equipped with AI-assisted navigation system. Estimated cost, approximately $200,000. Impacts on diplomacy and peace negotiations. The current conflict situation has influenced peace negotiations. Experts analyze the strategic and diplomatic developments as Ukraine seeks additional support from the U.S. to strengthen its security. This occurs at the same time President Zelensky provided updates on diplomatic meetings with the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. During the negotiations, U.S. representatives proposed a temporary 30-day ceasefire, with discussions extending throughout the day. In the conflict scenario, strategic aerial movements were recorded in Moscow. Given this scenario, the increasing use of drones in the conflict is not only redefining military tactics, but also directly influencing the region's diplomatic and strategic landscape. With technology advancing rapidly and its impact becoming more evident, the question remains: to what extent will the use of drones reshape the course of the war and shape the future of peace negotiations? Before the next battle unfolds, hit that like button. Don't miss what's coming.